We will revisit Shock Troopers for the Neo Geo. Weighing in at 346 megabits, this 1997 overhead running gun shooter was developed by Saurus. I wanted to cover this game again due to the poor audio quality of my original review video 6 years ago, and to cover important information that I previously left out. Shock Troopers draws influence from other military running gun shooters such as Ikari Warriors, Bloody Wolf, and Mercs. I will cover their common traits during this review. A terrorist organization known as the Bloody Scorpions have kidnapped a scientist, Dr. George, and his granddaughter Cecilia, forcing the doctor to produce Alpha 301, a mind-altering drug that will create an army of invincible soldiers. The government sends in 8 commandos to infiltrate the BSG to rescue the doctor and Cecilia. Cutscenes are provided in between levels to tell the game's story. When you begin, you can choose from Lonely Wolf or Team Battle. Lonely Wolf is self-explanatory, and Team Battle lets you choose from 3 of the 8 characters with the option to swap between them during play. After selecting your characters, you can choose from 3 paths to reach the Bloody Scorpions headquarters. Each path consists of 5 levels before the final showdown at the BSG headquarters. Given the number of paths and stages, there's a wide array of environments such as jungles, mountains, rivers, an airfield, a submarine, a village, enemy bases, and much more. There are moving stages set on board vehicles including a flatbed truck, a motorcycle, and a boat. You must climb cliffs and towers plus navigate along a high wire. These stages are laid out vertically, horizontally, and diagonally, often transitioning from one direction to another. Once the first 3 levels along your chosen path are completed, you have the option to switch routes. If you make the change, you will battle through an additional level on board a locomotive. With this combined with all other areas, there's a whopping 17 different levels in Shock Troopers, providing lots of replay value. Each of the 8 characters differ in attack power, speed, defense, and special weapon. Fighters that have high attack power utilize a double barrel rifle, while all others use a single barrel. Special weapons yield different results in terms of range, trajectory, blast radius, and damage output. Jackal uses standard grenades, Rio shoots explosive arrows, Maru uses poison gas grenades, Southern Cross tosses explosive boomerangs, and Big Mama fires a bazooka. In addition to the primary and special weapons, each fighter can perform close-range melee attacks, a nod to Bloody Wolf. Melee attacks provide certain benefits which I will discuss in a bit. You can do an evasive roll to dodge enemy bullets. This allows for quicker movement if you're using a character with limited speed. In stages where you climb, you will jump to avoid attacks and duck when you're on the motorcycle. If you hold the fire button, you lock in your firing position, allowing for strafing. It's a more simplified version of the joystick dial combination used in Ikari Warriors, which allowed you to fire in one direction while moving in another. Items can be obtained by defeating enemies with melee attacks or destroying objects like crates, tanks, and cabins. If you need items in a hurry, then go for the melee attacks. Items include different colored diamonds which boost the player's score, incinerates all on-screen enemies, or provides temporary invincibility. There is also medicine and food which restores some health, replenishment of your special weapons, increased speed, and weapon icons. Picking up a weapon icon replaces your main weapon, which include a heavy machine gun, Vulcan, flamethrower, 3-way shot, tank buster, a missile, and rocket launcher. Each of these weapons has a limited amount of ammunition. With few exceptions like the flamethrower, which has limited range, and the missile launcher, which is slow, don't skip on picking up these weapons as they can dish out some serious damage. My personal favorites are the Vulcan and 3-way shot. Most foes you encounter are BSG ground troops. They approach you from all directions and in different formations. They drop in by parachute or emerge from bunkers. They attack behind defensive fighting positions and from lookout towers. The BSG have other tricks up their sleeve. Their uniform color dictates the type of attacks they have. Green, white, and gray uniformed soldiers are a jack of all trades as they fire semi, 3-round bursts and automatic rounds from their rifles, toss grenades, fire mortars, and will quickly charge at you with a knife attack. They also flip and roll to evade your attacks. Red and orange uniformed troops fire missiles and other rounds from AT-4s. Blue and red troops fly in jetpacks firing single round and flame shots. Troops in blue also attack with flamethrowers. Amphibious troops jump out of the water and fire spear guns. BSG troops will also attack from motorcycles, boats, and jeeps, along with firing guns mounted on vehicles. In addition to the BSG troops, there are gun turrets and tanks that fire missiles, flame shots, and lasers. Bomber jets will fly over and drop napalm on the ground, leaving incendiary damage. Shooting oil drums leaves behind flames, which causes damage to the player. Landmines are scattered throughout some areas, and they may surround crates that contain powerful weapons. Watch where you go, as you may step on one unexpectedly. Mid and end stage bosses consist of vehicles and aircraft such as tanks, choppers, a forklift armed with spikes, and a plane battle reminiscent of Mercs. There are also boss fights against human opponents. Vehicular and aerial bosses follow an attack sequence of machine guns, spread shots, missiles, and fire blasts, which intensifies when they take lots of damage. The person manning the vehicle or aircraft will also toss grenades. Human bosses throw multiple grenades, fire automatic rounds in different patterns, and move evasively to avoid taking damage. BSG ground troops will join the action in some fights to provide a distraction. Use the evasive rolls to dodge the swarm of gunfire during the vehicular and aerial boss fights, and change your position throughout the battle to throw off their line of fire. For battles against human bosses, maintain your distance and attack diagonally whenever possible. For some additional information, there are 2 versions of the MVS cartridge, each differing on how many lives you receive and the amount of health assigned to the life bar. Looking at the PCB scans on the MVSscans.com website, cartridges have either the 238PG1 ROM or the 238P1 ROM. The version I own has the 238PG1 ROM, which assigns 3 lives in Lonely Wolf, with the life bar containing 64 health points. In Team Battle, each player has their own 64 life point health bar, thus if one of them runs out of health, they're no longer playable. In the version with the 238P1 ROM, which I tested out in MAME, you're given just 1 life with the life bar containing 128 health points, though the bar isn't full at the beginning of the game. In Team Battle, all 3 players share the same life bar, so you can always switch between them until you run out of health. In the 238P1 version, you're awarded health restoration and extra speed before each stage, depending on your performance in the prior one, or none if you played poorly. The bonuses vary between players depending on the route. I'm just about certain that the 2 ROMs results in these differences. If you have this cart, look at the ROMs and let me know the results just to confirm. The graphics are excellent. The color palette provides lots of fine detail in the terrain such as the ground, cliffs, water, and roads. There's lots of rocks and shrubs on the ground, cracks in the concrete and pavement, and rubble and decay in populated areas. Shock Troopers has plenty of animations, from the characters' victory celebrations to the reaction of enemy troops running in fear when you approach them, or when they perform routine tasks before getting wiped out. Unique animations are provided based on the type of weapon enemies are hit by. There's lots of blood and guts as enemies bleed profusely, lose limbs, and explode into a fine red mist. The soundtrack features lots of synthesized electric guitar, with many of the tracks having fast-paced beats. With all the firepower and destructible objects, you're treated to lots of great sound effects of crumbling structures and explosions. When switching characters in Team Battle, they will do their victory animation before you can control them. This brief delay results in having to readjust to the action during a heavy firefight, which is annoying. The boss battles are repetitive. Several of the boss vehicles appear on each route, and some appear more than once along the same route, though the later battles provide more attacks to dodge and may be followed by a fight against a soldier who is manning the vehicle. Given that there are 17 levels, I'm sure it was a tough task to make each boss unique. I find the final boss easy to defeat. Slowdown occurs when there's lots of explosions on screen, but it's nothing to get worked up about. Shock Troopers is available for the arcade archives on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. It's also included in SNK Arcade Classics Volume 1 for the PS2, PSP, and Wii, though I strongly discourage you from playing the PS2 version. There's loading in between levels, and it runs at a much slower pace. On average, it takes me around 5 extra minutes to complete the game. Using a character that normally moves slow makes it feel like you're treading on quicksand, and thus it's not worth playing through. Here's a quick comparison so you can see the difference. Shock Troopers is a fun action-packed experience whether you go at it alone or with a friend. The choice of 8 fighters with different characteristics along with multiple paths to take provides plenty of replay value. I like how enemies approach you in different ways based on the environments, whether it be by parachute, sliding down cliffs, or jumping out of a window. It provides an element of surprise in some spots. The ability to roll and strafe makes it easier to react and counter to all the enemy fire, making it less of a quarter muncher than other running guns like Mercs. With the consistent action, I feel that Shock Troopers never drags at any point. It takes between 30 to 35 minutes to complete even if you take the extra stage. I've played through this game countless times and it's my favorite game for the Neo Geo, and it's an absolute must-own title if you have an MVS. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll see you next time.